In the heart of the Rodriguez family farm stood an ancient apple tree, its gnarled branches reaching toward the morning sky like weathered arms. 11-year-old Elena sat beneath its trunk, reading stories aloud while her twin brother Carlos whittled nearby. Neither child knew this perfect morning would be their tree's last. Papa Miguel walked across the farmyard carrying his morning coffee, his boots heavy with the weight of difficult decisions. He stopped before the apple tree and stared at its barren branches with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, Mijillos," he whispered, "but this old tree hasn't given us apples in 3 years." Elena jumped to her feet, her amber eyes blazing with determination. "Papa, no, this tree is part of our family." Carlos set down his whittling knife and stood beside his sister. "Abuela Rosa planted this tree when you were little," he said quietly. "It holds all our memories and stories together." Papa Miguel's face softened as memories flooded back. He could almost see his mother, young Rosa, planting the tiny sapling with soil-stained hands and hopeful eyes. But reality pressed heavy on his shoulders. "The farm is struggling, children. We need the space for crops that will actually feed our family and pay our bills." That evening, Elena and Carlos sat beneath their beloved tree as sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Elena traced the carved initials in the bark RM 1985s, where their grandmother had marked her young love for their grandfather. "Tomorrow the tree cutters come," Carlos whispered, his voice breaking. As the full moon rose high above the farm, something extraordinary happened. The old apple tree began to glow with soft, silver light. Elena woke first, drawn by a strange sensation, and gently shook Carlos awake. Together, they crept outside to find their tree transformed into something magical and mysterious. The twins crept through the farmhouse, careful not to wake Papa Miguel, their bare feet silent on the wooden floors. When they stepped outside, they gasped in wonder. The ancient apple tree was covered in thousands of silver apple blossoms that sparkled like stars, glowing with ethereal moonlight magic. As Elena and Carlos approached the glowing tree, a gentle voice whispered through the night air like a warm embrace, "Mis queridos nietos." The children's hearts leaped with recognition and joy. There, among the silver blossoms, appeared the translucent, loving figure of their beloved Abuela Rosa, smiling down at them. "My precious ones," Abuela Rosa whispered, her voice like wind through apple blossoms, "I have been watching over you always. This old tree carries my love, your grandfather's dreams, and the hopes of generations. Papa Miguel doesn't understand yet, but sometimes endings are really new beginnings in disguise." Rosa's spirit moved closer to the children, her ethereal hand touching Elena's locket and Carlos's carved apple. "You both carry pieces of me," she smiled. "This tree has one final gift to give, but you must trust in magic, even when grown-ups cannot see it. Promise me you'll have faith until dawn." Elena and Carlos looked at each other, their twin connection allowing silent communication before they both nodded solemnly. "We promise, Abuela," Elena whispered. "We'll have faith," Carlos added quietly. Rosa smiled with infinite love and began to fade. "Remember, Mis Nietos' magic lives in believing, not just seeing." As dawn approached, the magical blossoms began to fade, leaving Elena and Carlos standing beneath the ordinary apple tree once more. But something had changed. They could feel it in the air, in the earth beneath their feet, in their hearts. The tree held secrets that would soon reveal themselves. By breakfast time, Papa Miguel was already outside sharpening his axe and preparing the tools for the tree removal crew. Elena and Carlos watched from the kitchen window, their hearts heavy with knowledge they couldn't share. "Trust in magic," Elena whispered, repeating Abuela's words like a prayer. The tree removal crew arrived at mid-morning, 3 burly men with chainsaws and heavy equipment who looked at the ancient apple tree with purely practical eyes. Papa Miguel pointed out where to make the first cuts, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly as he signed the work order. Elena burst through the kitchen door and ran toward the men, her nightgown billowing behind her like wings. "Stop! Please stop!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. Carlos followed close behind, both children placing themselves between the chainsaws and their beloved tree, desperate to buy more time. "Elena, Carlos, get away from there," Papa Miguel shouted, his voice mixing anger with fear for their safety, but the children stood firm, holding hands beneath their tree's protective branches. "You don't understand, Papa," Elena said through her tears. "Abuela came to us last night. The tree has magic left to give." The tree removal crew exchanged uncertain glances, uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding before them. Papa Miguel knelt down to his children's level, his voice gentling despite his frustration. "Miss Hijos, there's no such thing as magic trees. Your grandmother is gone, and we must face reality together." Just as Papa Miguel reached for Elena's hand to lead her away, the most extraordinary thing happened. The ancient apple tree began to tremble, its bare branches swaying without any wind. Then, before everyone's amazed eyes, Tiny green buds began appearing on every branch, growing larger by the second. The buds grew into perfect green leaves, then white blossoms began opening like stars across every branch. But the true miracle was yet to come. As the family and workers watched in stunned silence, the blossoms transformed into the most beautiful red apples anyone had ever seen, ripe and perfect. Papa Miguel walked slowly toward the miraculous tree, his weathered hand reaching out to touch one perfect apple. As his fingers made contact with the fruit, tears began flowing down his cheeks. "Mama Rosa," he whispered, "I can smell your apple pie, hear your laughter. Forgive me for doubting." Elena and Carlos ran to their father, wrapping their arms around him as he knelt beneath the miraculous tree. "We knew you'd understand, Papa," Elena whispered. The tree removal crew quietly packed their equipment, understanding that some things are too precious to cut down, too magical to destroy with practical thinking. Word spread quickly through the farming community about the Rodriguez family's miracle tree. Neighbors came from miles around to witness the impossible sight, an apple tree producing perfect fruit out of season, defying nature's laws through the power of family love, faith, and ancestral blessing from beyond the grave. That evening, Elena sat beneath the tree reading aloud just as she had that morning, but now Carlos carved new apples while Papa Miguel joined them with his coffee and stories about Abuela Rosa. The miraculous tree had given them more than fruit, it had restored their family unity and faith. As weeks passed, the miraculous apple tree continued producing perfect fruit that never rotted or fell. Papa Miguel built a roadside stand where visitors could buy the magical apples, and the Rodriguez farm prospered beyond their wildest dreams. But the true treasure remained the restored faith in family miracles. On the first anniversary of the miracle, Elena and Carlos invited the entire community for a celebration beneath their blessed tree. As sunset painted the sky, they shared the story of how Abuela Rosa's love transcended death to save their family's heritage and teach them about the power of believing. As the evening stars appeared, something beautiful happened. The apple tree began to glow softly with the same silver light Elena and Carlos remembered from that first magical night. But now the entire community could see it, proof that miracles shared with love become blessings for everyone. In the silver light, Elena thought she glimpsed a familiar figure among the tree's glowing branches, Abuela Rosa, smiling down at her family and community with infinite love and approval. The vision lasted only a moment, but everyone felt her presence, blessing their gathering with ancestral wisdom and joy. Rosa's spirit raised her hand in a final blessing before fading back into the silver light, leaving behind the sweet scent of apple blossoms and the warm feeling of unconditional love. The tree's glow softened to its normal appearance, but everyone knew they had witnessed something that would change their lives forever. Years passed, and the apple tree continued to flourish, producing fruit that brought prosperity to the Rodriguez family and wonder to all who heard their story. Elena and Carlos grew into wise adults who taught their own children about the power of faith, family love, and believing in miracles. The apple tree's final gift was not just its magical fruit, but the lesson it taught about hidden potential, family love that transcends death, and the power of believing in miracles. Sometimes the most precious gifts come when we're about to lose them, teaching us what truly matters most in life.